I am not one who wants to work on my tools. I want my tools to work for me. If the tool's not easy to use, the tool doesn't get used. Simple. If it's not easy to use, nobody's going to use it. Since as long as I can remember, if it had wheels and an engine, I was all about it. Do you want to talk about goats?
Always, dude.
Okay. All right. So this is a good one. This one's totally in left field, but
Goats.
100% applicable
Okay.
to additive.
I'd love to know how you figured out how to incorporate additive in goats.
I'll tell you. So I have a client, also a good friend of mine. He approached me and said, is there a way we could take this, but make a version of it that's lighter?
A lighter goat,
Not.
right?
Let me rephrase. Let me
Okay.
add context here. So my buddy, client, he does extreme mountaineering. He will hike out 30 miles out into the wilderness where there are no trails. There aren't even good maps for that matter. And he uses alpine mountain goats as his pack animals to haul in gear, to haul out hunts. He'll bring 5, 6, 8, 10 of them. They literally follow him like dogs. And these goats, they got bull horns. They're 180, 210 pounds in that range, full of personality. They are honestly the coolest animal.
No, goats are like, I live the most, I just realized how boring my life is.
So they have a pack,
right?
A saddle that is strapped onto them that they will use to strap stuff to. And that's how they use them as pack animals. There's designs out there and they are super robust. I'm talking like 1/2-inch aluminum plate for like the horns and brackets, wood panels with some felt cushioning on them, and for the pad.
For the goat.
Yeah, that's on the goat that you hook everything to. And so when you're talking about
seems heavy
when you're talking about pack animal, there's a rule of thumb. I think it's like 25% of the animal's weight is what they can pack.
Okay.
So if you're talking about 200-pound goat, you're 25%, 50 pounds. The saddle is 7.5 pounds. So that's a good percentage of your total carrying capacity. So he came to me and he said, hey, can you figure out how like a way to make this lighter? So we took it all apart, kind of reverse engineered it on the bench, just looking it over. This hardware I feel like is too big, like it's just too robust. We don't need 1/2-inch plate. So we weighed each component, and what we're going to do is try to pull 2 to 2.5 pounds of weight out of the saddle, which is what? That's 33% reduction in the saddle weight alone.
Man, I keep thinking of generative design.
Well, right. So that might come into it. What we're going to start with is let's just copy the profile and design that exists, but let's do it from an additive viewpoint. Let's make the structure hollow. Let's change the hardware. Let's not use a big aluminum rod to span the two brackets. Let's use a additive printed structural tube that's mostly hollow because it's only in compression. Let's pull weight the simplest way possible first and see where we get. Then we can start getting into more advanced design and optimization to make it truly unique and purpose-built from additive. But so it's
fascinating. You sure did that. You managed to incorporate additive in goats very well.
Immediately. So in in mountaineering alone, he's telling me this. He's like, you don't understand. Guys and gals that are serious in this sport, like this is their jam. If you say, hey, I can take that and I can shave 10% of the weight out of it, they're like, oh my gosh, where do I swipe my car? How do I get this?
Those type of people are also super into gear. They appreciate quality gear.
So then it leads right into, well, if we can pull weight out of the goat's pack, what can we do for you? What if you weren't hiking around 10% less weight? Then you can go farther.
I love this.
You got more endurance. So fascinating. Oh, you start adding up these little gains where you can take additive and really truly apply its structural aspects, its hollow aspects, lightweight. You put strength where you need it, not where it's left because of a manufacturing process.
Because it's not subtractive. So many designs and parts and structural, it can be made. Additive is the only way it can be made.
That's what I was talking. Then that's what I was talking about earlier. Is that we're now developing industries in this modernization of industrial revolution industries are developing around the idea that additive is now the only solution because it's the only way something can be produced.
Oh, I think about an example that just comes to mind is when they're designing these jet engines, the big Rolls-Royce Trents and stuff like that.
Yep.
Those blades, the
Yeah.
fan blades, I'm going to assume they're titanium or something. Weight.
Typically a titanium alloy.
Take a CNC and try to CNC one of those out, but also make most of it hollow with an infill so that it still has the structural strength, but it's impossible.
It's impossible.
But you could design things in such a way that you can add, fluid channels to keep things cool. Internally designed into it.
Yep.
And I don't know if the industries just don't realize it yet, or they're too hesitant to start it. But additive is going to be the way to go in the future, mainly because it just saves so much time and money. Well, I'm talking about metal printing as well at this point. We're talking about
it's still
that's
very,
incredibly
very advanced.
expensive.
Yeah,
but
incredibly expensive. But
it won't always be.
It won't. And as people like you and I continue pushing and pushing into industry, pushing into solutions, it's only going to drive additive into a more and more user-friendly, more attainable industry standard manufacturing.
How has using the 22, where are you using the 22, choosing that machine over others? 'Cause I'm sure you've got a bunch of other machines.
Yeah, I have 7, 8 printers right now. Functional parts are going to lean bigger.
Yep.
In my opinion. And so when I'm focused on large format as a primary necessity for what I choose to use, then the options decrease very quickly. Now, there are comparable machines to the IDEX out there. The Prusa, I think, is HT90. That's an interesting machine. It's high temperature. It has a decent build area. The architecture of how the machine works, I don't know if I love, but it works. They've proven it.
Yeah.
It's a single nozzle, so not as interesting.
Are you using the IDEX capabilities of this machine?
I haven't yet.
Yeah.
I have use cases I know I'm going to use it for, but in this application where all my parts have just been huge.
Yeah.
We're talking 10-inch long by 4-inch wide by 12 to 16-inch tall parts. I'm using the entire build area.
Yeah.
And so that's where I go back to, I need big build area that is also high temp and capable. And when you pencil those all down, the answer becomes really clear. And you pair that with a team that truly stands behind their equipment.
Thank you. Oh, yeah.
I'm sold.
I use it every single day. Interesting machine. We kept it as simple as possible on purpose. The way this came to be designed is we saw all these other companies, because we get the machines, do their big high temp. And I remember opening them up, looking at them and being like, wow, this is overcomplicated.
Mm-hmm.
I get it, but these are all points of failure, or they're making this too. How long is it going to take me to get that part? And we made the 22 instead of, it has all those advanced features, but it's robust and simple.
I love it.
So that it's repeatable and reliable.
I look at some machines like the Mark Forge, and it's in the pretty case, and there's layers you have to get into to be able to do anything. And I'm just like, man, if something goes wrong, that looks like a headache. The IDEX is just so blatantly simple and straightforward and just robust
open.
That it's just, I open the top, everything's there. I open the front, everything's there. It
makes sense.
It's just easy.
Yeah.
And I am not one who wants to work on my tools. I want my tools to work for me. And a 3D printer is a tool.
Very well put. The other thing that was important for us, me especially, is that it's open, meaning if you can go, Mark Forge is so closed off, right?
Yeah.
But if you want, you can go into the firmware and change it to do whatever you want it to do. Add this. You're not locked out of anything.
Yeah.
You want to put PLA at 500 Celsius, go ahead.
Not gonna
you
go
shouldn't,
well.
but that's for the power users out there.
Yeah.
That like doing that. But that's the main goal was what you're talking about. You want your tool to just work. I want to talk about this real quick. Long ago, 3D printing got a bad reputation, or you had to spend a ton of money for a Stratasys machine that printed ABS. I think what it was there was that huge hype 10 years ago when the ANET A8s came out and the Ender 3, and the average consumer learned about these machines.
Mm-hmm.
And all they would print is PLA, which is fine, but they had to tune them. And they had to, level the bed, check flow rates. So many people were like, this is a fucking disaster. I don't want anything to do with this. All the way up until Bamboo came along and it was like, push a button and print. But that's what gave it the bad reputation. It's so hard to tune. You have to learn so much. Its PLA sucks, and that's before PLA had additives, where it would literally just melt in your car.
Yeah.
And now I can, print Ultim 9085 cockpit internals for jet fighters that'll self-extinguish and be able
What
to.
you're circling around is business and marketing 101. 100%. People will buy convenience. They will support convenience. If you can integrate ease of use, if you can integrate just usability, and just how do I just interface? Look,
That's
I've
why
said
bamboo
this,
has gone from.
Yeah, that's why they've exploded, because
everyone is 3D printing now.
It's easy. It's too easy to not now.
Yep.
And I've said this many times in various aspects.
It's a very cool time in this industry.
If the tool's not easy to use, the tool doesn't get used.
Yeah.
Simple. If it's not easy to use, nobody's going to use it. They'll try, and then it'll get put off in a corner, and it'll get dusty, and then eventually it'll just get purged out of wherever it's at.
Yeah, the high temp additive stuff is kind of, you need mastery. That's why it's just impossible to be able to incorporate
but that's where
a profile for peak without huge amounts of technology to be able to analyze temperature, where it's holding heat, where there's going to be internal stresses and stuff. So, but eventually that'll be around. There's already programs that'll analyze the geometry of a part and be like, we're going to have to speed it up here. And then, But
well, that's where you guys, I think you guys are doing great. You have that whole wiki, and it's fully available. There's no paywall. There's no password to get into it. You're adding convenience where you easily can, which is with information and support. And then the fact that anybody can just call you guys and talk to you and get the support you need.
We love doing that. We love our customers. It's fun. It's interesting because they're doing stuff like you do. And we're like, wait, what are you doing?
It's cool.
Let's have a 30-minute conversation.
And then your mind gets open to something else. Wait, additive can support goats?
It's the best part of this job is when someone calls and you're like, wait, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And then you guys just bond for 20 minutes, be like, oh, well, that's sick. What have you considered using this? And it's like, no.
Yeah. And then it's that sharing and learning after that.
I don't know how much I should say about this, but the 22 is our first machine. It was a huge learning that we still incorporate and keep the idea of simplicity, but with super advanced. So the convenience is there. So you can hopefully basically just print peak.
Right on.
The 22 is going to look like a 70s GM motor. That's it's
people are still driving around
5 liters and makes 130 horsepower in the future. But hey, I don't want to keep you all day. Super awesome, super fascinating what you do. You must always be interested in what you're doing. Do you get bored often? Because it's just so cool.
I don't get bored.
That's cool.
I do sometimes get a little overwhelmed with opportunity and deciding where to focus and where to take those next steps.
My guy, that is an awesome problem to have.
I'm grateful. I am 100% grateful for the situation I'm in, with my business, with the people I'm meeting because of it, the connections I'm making.
Seems like you deserve it. You're a smart guy doing really innovative things.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. And I work at Vision Miner, so.
Well, you are helping me see my goals.
There you go. Doing something.
Yeah.
No, I'm the mad scientist. I break stuff and melt stuff in acid. And
that's good. Sometimes you have to do that.
Yeah. I'm going to let you go because you are overwhelmed with opportunity. But what a pleasure. Fascinating. This is, I look for, yeah, man, for sure.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I want to see, give us a link to your cars or videos or anything. I want to see them.
I will.
Send them to me.
I will. Absolutely.
That's super cool. Do you have a YouTube channel for
Not
building
yet.
these monsters?
It's like,
you have to.
That's the next thing.